guys, it's Marianne Berry over here with Realign, and welcome to week 2 out of my 4-week program. Just to recap, the intention of this program is to peel back the layers of an onion, so to speak, with your posture. So last week we started with rotation of the hips and the torso, and if you haven't seen last week's video, please start with that video, start with those exercises before you get to week 2. Today we're going to be focusing on misalignments of the pelvis. And just to remind you, what you can expect out of following along with this 4-week program is to have less pain, improved mobility, and a better overall sense of your body awareness. So let's talk a little bit about what we're going to be covering today, which is misalignments of the hips. So the pelvis can be out of alignment in lots of different ways. One way that can look, we covered this last week, is rotation. So there can be rotation in the pelvis. And another way that the pelvis can be out of alignment is hip elevation. So one side of the pelvis can actually sit higher than the other. Oftentimes when a person is told that they have one leg that's longer than the other, it's actually because they have one side of their hip that's higher than the other. So we can also have what I'm going to call an anterior to posterior hip disparity. And that's what that looks like here. And what that means is that one side of the hip, one side of the pelvis, is more anterior or posterior than the other side. Now here's where we get into peeling back the layers of an onion, so to speak. Last week we started with rotation of the pelvis, and it's important to minimize or neutralize that rotation first before we start to get at some of these other pelvic alignment issues like hip elevation or an anterior to posterior disparity. So hopefully you've been following along with those anti-rotation exercises and your hips are in a better, more neutral alignment. So now we're going to more aggressively target the pelvis and work on getting the hips into a more balanced bilateral neutral position. So today I'm going to show you 3 exercises. The first exercise is called Flexion Abdominals position. So you're going to need a block. A foam roller will do also, but today I'm going to show you how to do this using a yoga block. You're going to lay on your back, you're going to come up against a wall, and you're going to place that block right between your knees. The proper positioning here for Flexion Abdominals position is you want to start with your shins parallel with the floor. How do I look, Trish? Am I...
You're good.
Lined up, okay, good. And then you want to have your feet straight. I want you to place the block between your knees this way. If you use a standard yoga block, you're going to put it this way. And then your arms, you want to set your arms on the floor at your sides with your palms facing up. Now, you're going to measure your distance away from the wall. You should be able to touch the wall with your fingertips. So I'm a little bit too far away. I'm going to scoot in a little bit. So now I can actually touch the wall with my fingertips, and that's how I know that I'm in the right position in relationship to the wall. Once you get yourself all lined up, you're going to squeeze into that block with constant pressure for 4 minutes. Now, a few things that you want to keep in mind here with Flexion Abdominals position is you want to squeeze into the block equally with the left side and the right side. So if your hips are out of alignment, when you get into this position, you might notice that you have one side that's stronger or more dominant. So you really just want to focus on trying to get that pressure squeezing into the block to be equal. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you actually want to just relax your stomach and let your inner thighs do all of the work here. So you're going to feel this, you should feel this pretty intensely in your inner thighs. So if you're squeezing with at least 50% of your strength, even 60% of your strength, you should be pretty fatigued by the end of the 4 minutes. And you want to just keep your upper body totally relaxed. So what we're doing here in Flexion Abdominals is I have my hips in a deep, deep flexion position, and I'm squeezing into that block, and so I'm using the strength of my inner thighs, my adductor muscle group, to literally force my hips into a more neutral position against the floor. So after 4 minutes, you can go ahead and get rid of that block. I was definitely starting to feel the burn there. You can set that block off to the side, and now we're going to get into static wall. So this one's a little bit tricky, scooting yourself all the way up against the wall, but however you can achieve that, you want to scoot all the way in so that your hips are touching the wall. Now, if you're really tight in your hamstrings, you want to scoot back as far as you need to so that your tailbone is actually flat on the floor. So find whatever position you need to be in so that you get your tailbone flat. I'm going to go ahead and scoot all the way up against the wall. Once you get into that position, you want to look at your heels and make sure that they are about hip width distance apart. So we want 1 fist to a fist and a half distance between your heels. And you want to make sure that your feet point straight out from the wall. So we don't want to see your feet turned out like this. You're going to pull your toes back and tighten your thighs. And just keep your upper body totally relaxed. And what we're doing here in static wall is we are engaging the posture muscles of your legs to actually strengthen that improved alignment of your hips. So here we have your hips in a neutral plane against the floor, and your hips are going to have an opportunity to actually settle into a more neutral alignment. And this exercise feels great on your back too, just as a side note. So static wall position, you're going to want to hold that for 4 minutes. And it should be pretty tough. If you're really tightening your thighs and pulling your toes back, it's not a walk in the park. So once you finish 4 minutes there, we're going to finish off with air bench. So you're going to come on up, you're going to sit against the wall with your feet hip width apart and your feet straight. You want your ankles out in front of your knees, and you want your hip joint just above the knee joint. You can just relax your palms, your arms with your palms up in your lap, and you're going to push through your heels, and you're going to push your lower back flat into the wall. Think about pushing both sides of your pelvis equally back into the wall, and your upper body just stays totally relaxed. And what we're doing here with air bench is we're just simply using that flat surface of the wall and the strength of your own body pushing back against the wall to literally set your pelvis into a neutral position. So there you have it. Those are the 3 exercises for today. Again, it's Flexion Abdominals position for 4 minutes, static wall for 4 minutes, and air bench for anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute. I say it like that because the most important thing with air bench is really the form, not the amount of time that you hold it for. So I would rather see you give me a good, solid 30-second air bench than so-so form for a longer time. So I'm really excited about this program. Again, have fun. Please try to make this part of your daily routine, and I will see you again in another week with part 3 of my 4-part series where we are going to cover shoulder disparities. So we're going to get into those shoulders. We're starting to work our way out to the extremities. I'll see you soon.